Carol?
Thank you, Holly. I want to welcome you to our targeted technical assistance and specifically in the service of coaching. I'm going to go over the agenda, which is the next slide, and we will do some introductions. We will discuss why targeted technical assistance in regards to coaching, the process of coaching. There will be a roadmap, pre-self-assessment and coaching, questions and answers, and then next steps and a timeline. We're going to do a little reflection, and then we'll close out in the hour. The most important part is making sure that we address your Q&A. My name is Carol Hirota, and I am formerly from Stockton Unified School District and happily retired and currently working as a coach with CAEP. Sue, would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. I have to say that I'm thrilled by your interest in TTA coaching. Um, I have retired from Oakland Adult and Career Education, and I have reinvented myself as an adult education coach. And I've been part of the CAEP TTA coaching team since the first cohort in 2021.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Renee, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to see so many familiar faces. Glad you're with us. I'm the director for CAEP TAP on the K-12 Sacramento County Office of Education side of TAP, and happy to be with you sharing about our TTA program today.
Thank you. And Mandalee.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mandalee Gonzalez, and I am the coordinator with CAEP TAP. I'm really excited that we are where we are with the targeted technical assistance, and everyone here that's joining us today reached out to learn more. So that's exciting for us. So thank you for being here and taking your afternoon with us.
Okay, and our next task, Holly has already put the question in there. What we would like all of you to do is, and you've done this, put your name and the agency or consortium you are representing, and then how did you hear about TTA? What brought you here to join us in this session today? So take a minute to do that right now in our chat box. Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Anthony, Vincent, Giuliani, Giuliana. Thank you. Awesome. Stephanie, Juliana, thank you. Stephanie and Pamela. Awesome. All right. So we'll go to the next part. This is the orientation, our purpose, and our objectives. We want you to have a clear understanding of the coaching process. We want to ensure that you have your questions addressed today. And we want you to have a clear understanding of the targeted technical assistance timeline and expectations when you're assigned a coach during this process. All right, I'm going to turn this over to our director, Renee Collins. Thank you.
Yes, so there's probably more than these four that I'm going to address about why your consortium should consider targeted technical assistance, but these four will get us started. The first thing was to be able to strengthen both internal and external partnerships. So TTA is a consortium-wide effort. We have noticed that we've had the best results with our targeted technical assistance and coaching when consortium teams come together. Maybe they have the consortium lead and they have some members involved. They maybe sometimes have a data person involved. that works at the consortium level. So definitely strengthening those internal partnerships, but also being able to tap into some of the external partnerships. So we have a lot in CAEP TAP, we have a lot of vendor partners. We work very closely with CASAS, we work with WestEd, we also work with our state leadership projects throughout the state. We know several of the consultants that are available throughout the state to assist consortia as they need it, and your coaches, because they have had a lot of experience in adult education, are often able to connect you to some external partners, and that can always be very beneficial when it comes to meeting some of the goals that you're outlining in your 3-year and annual plans. The second item I have there is about TTA can help provide a systems approach to continuous improvement with data-driven decision making. So, we're all working on continuous improvement all of the time. So just because I wrote continuous improvement there, it's not saying that your consortium specifically needs any particular thing. It's saying that we should all be working towards continuous improvement, right? And identifying kind of that cycle of activities that identifies, what are our goals? What do we have in place? What's missing? Who can help us to articulate and work on those goals? And then how is it that we monitor and measure the progress we're making towards those goals? And then again, like I said, it's cyclical. So then you come back and say, okay, are our goals the same, or our goals, have they shifted a little bit because we've grown in what we've tried to do? So our TTA coaches are able to work through this systems approach to continuous improvement, and they're able to work with our data partners, like I mentioned, CASAS, WestEd. You have availability of both the K-12 and community college systems, so that you're able to maybe access TE reports, access MIS reports, access fact sheets through WestEd, for example. And so anyhow, the coaches are able to, if you're unsure how to go about this, we have our coaches there that are there to support you in doing so. So the third bullet is structured intensive coaching and support to positively affect consortium-wide program or student outcomes. And so this is your opportunity to work very closely one-on-one with the coaches. And if your coach, knows that one of our other coaches has expertise in a certain area, we encourage them to kind of team together or bring in other coaches from time to time, so that you're really working as a, both a coaching team and as a consortium. So it really just makes us stronger. And some of those consortium-wide program goals might be related to dual enrollment, transition, healthcare pathways. It really can be anything that's identified as kind of a gap in a need area by your consortium, and then you can work towards accomplishing or making progress in that area. Some of the student outcomes that we might be looking at might be increasing our number of participants, our retention rates, the benchmarks that we're earning, and so on. So just, how do you take not just an agency level, but a consortium-wide approach to setting some program and student goals that are going to further your consortium as a whole. And then finally, our TTA coaches are able to provide assistance for consortia with boosting member effectiveness, annual and 3-year planning goals as needed. So some of our TTA agencies have some questions about the deliverables, what's expected of them, how do I do it, and or what can I write into my annual and 3-year planning goals? How do I measure progress with that? So on and so forth. And our TTA coaches are expert in that area too. So those are just a few reasons to start you off that TTA might be beneficial for your consortium. So I truly hope that you will consider it.
All right, thanks, Renee. So we're just going to transition into what the overall process of the targeted technical assistance is, and we've created a roadmap. Holly just dropped it in the chat, so you're also welcome to download this, refer back to it. Feel free to pop questions into the chat. If you have any questions, whether they come up now or later, you can always reach out to us at tap@caladulted.org with any questions that may come up later. So this is just providing you all with a brief understanding of what targeted technical assistance is, the process in becoming one of our participants. So initially, you all are here because you have reached out with an interest to participate with the TTA program. The areas that we review, Renee really did a nice outline of areas that your coach will support you in, but then we also will take a review of some of the data review pieces. So potentially your program outcomes or student outcomes, where maybe we can identify an area of growth that we can support you through, taking maybe a deeper data dive in that area, as well as some of your CAEP deliverables. So we all know that we have our CAEP deliverables, and those are due. We have your fiscal reporting as well as just your annual reports and your 3-year plan. So we want to make sure that those are all due and in our NOVA system on time. So one of the other areas that we look at are our consortia that are that if they need help in this area, we we can support you through that, making sure that you're able to get all of your information into NOVA and all of those data pieces. So what this looks like for pre-TTA is these are the areas and buckets that are looked at. There might be consortia that are not a self-referral, but potentially are invited by CAEP TAP or by our CAEP leadership. Notifications do go out, and we're going to go over the notification timeline as well as what the next steps are. So for the first, sorry, I'm just moving my Zoom controls. For phase 1, what this looks like, that time frame is going to be about your 3 to 6 months. While you are going through this phase 1, you're going to meet with your coach. This area is going to focus on, like it says there, on the data gathering, looking at it, analyzing it, creating that plan, development, so that way you have a structure and a plan to move forward with the support of your coach. So your coach will meet with you, they'll help you develop what that looks like, and then create a schedule. Coaching is so often, you need that ability to continuously meet in with them. And Renee had mentioned you might have a team of people that meet with them, or maybe it's just one person. But when you create that established schedule, this is all part of that 3 to 6 month time frame. You're also going to go through and as a consortium, gather and analyze all of your data in those areas of growth that have been identified through the self-assessment, and that is the CPQSA. It's the Conduct Consortium Program Quality Self-Assessment. And again, you will be supported through this with your coach. And then you'll finalize all of you'll finalize your assessment. From the assessment, that's where you will really identify those areas that you can grow in, start to prioritize those areas that you want to tackle, create that action plan, and then move on to that next step. So, and then phase 2. Now, phase 2 is about a 12-month long process. And this is really taking that assessment, that action plan, putting it into action with your consortium implements and monitors that plan, identifying those clear goals and those related actionable steps. Because the targeted technical assistance, the program overall tends to be specific and unique to each consortium. So there's not, oh, here is a plan, you're going to go through it step 1 through Z, or whatever that might look like. You just, it is really structured and scaffolded to the areas that as a consortium you want to improve, and that's where the coach will help you. So there might be an opportunity as you guys go through your action steps where you do a reevaluation, ensuring that everything is moving as intended, and then potentially you might need to pivot, and that's okay. And this is where your coach will help you through that. Ideally, your consortium will meet all of your goals that you had initially identified. Your consortium as a whole will have progressed through, and then at that point, we'll go through an exit process where we will exit you out of the TTA program, and then we'll set up a meeting where likely Renee or myself will sit down and just have a chat with you about what that process was for you and just have an exit interview. All right, and then let me go ahead and move on to the next slide. So with keeping all of that in mind, we are asking just to provide us a little bit of context. So there's a QR code here. There's also an application link that I'll pop into the chat. And this really is just asking a few questions for you to let us know a little bit about what you would like to work on, what you think those areas look like. And if you could have that filled out and submitted to us by April 15th, we'll be sending out notifications the first week of May. And then the cohort will begin late spring. And before everything gets kicked off, we will reach out to you and we'll connect you with your TTA coach. So I'm just going to leave that there for a second, and we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. Is this self-assessment piece? Was this you, Renee, or is this my slide?
It's my slide.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Carol.
Hi. So I popped in the chat. It's the Consortium Program Quality Self-Assessment document. It is in the CAEP files. So I use that, that link so you can always find it. It is under Administrator. You just need to go to some of the resources, and it's under the three-year plan. This document is actually a really good tool for everyone to use when they're doing a 3-year plan or creating their annual plan. So what I really like about this program quality self-assessment at the consortium level is it really provides you within the consortium these conversations about the quality of your collaboration and the impact within your communities using this self-directed quality improvement process. So it's not, you can do it a lot of different ways. You can use the self-assessment based on your agency and then come together as a consortium and say, what do we do as a consortium? You know, what parts? The most important thing is the conversation and everyone understanding where everyone is in regards to some of these benchmarks as an effective consortium. It's a continuous improvement process, but the most important thing is that it's relevant and meaningful to your consortium. And that's why I think this is a valuable tool for your 3-year process as well as your annual process. The first quality indicator is capacity. And what's really important about that is if you have high turnover in staff or faculty, and if you're in a small rural community, your consortium may struggle because you have multi-job assignments, and some of you already may have that and not be in a small rural community. You have distance and large gaps between where all of your students are in your area, and your population might be all in different areas. So just looking at how you build capacity and how you create professional development plans and things like that goes into that quality indicator of a number 1. Number 2 is the connection. And it's really, how do you coordinate all of your educational options? So you have adult agency 1 doing some things, adult agency 2 doing some things and services. But how do you overall work together as a consortium to ensure that there's access for all students to have the different types of services? And the other thing is building capacity is not all agencies have to do the same thing, like provide the same CTE class. Maybe, you know, it's offered in one area of your consortium and then another agency works on another CTE course. That's an example of how you might want to connect and collaborate with your students, and also how you transition from one agency to another, and in particular from your adult schools to your community college. Quality indicator number 3 is your entry process, which really looks at your procedures and your customer service to students and your data integrity, how you document what your students are doing, which leads into quality indicator number 4, which is progress. How do your students access your programs, and how are your services aligned so that you can provide the student support services, which leads to quality indicator number 5, which is completion and transition on your student outcomes, employment, diplomas, equivalency certificates, employment certificates, and English speakers and citizenship. So those are just basically the 5 indicators, a real cursory look at it. But like I said, it's a good self-evaluation for you to look at it at the agency level, but more importantly, at the consortium level. I'm going to turn over this process now to Sue, who talks about our coaching.
Thanks. I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about coaching so that we have common expectations. And I saw in the chat that one of our participants today didn't realize that coaching is part of TTA. As Mandalay talked about, it's an 18-month relationship, and we meet with consortia approximately monthly through phases 1 and 2. So that's a brief overview. But again, what is coaching? In TTA, coaching will guide and support your consortium development as opposed to advising and telling you what to do. We see coaching as different from advising, which is recommending or offering an opinion, and different from mentoring, which is influencing and counseling you. In coaching, we endeavor to facilitate your process with guided questions as opposed to directing you of what you should do. And in our coaching, we'll address both strategy and culture. Strategy to support you in your improvement, establishing goals, developing a plan, and implementing it. And then culture. How do you work with each other? CAEP, by definition, is a collaborative culture. And as Renee said, a purpose of TTA coaching is to strengthen your internal and external partnerships. So in coaching, we'll address the practices, behaviors, and values of your consortium. So what does that look like? A few minutes ago, Carol talked about the self-assessment, which is one tool or a strategy toward improved student learning and program effectiveness. In that process, the coach might ask you, you are the consortium leads, might ask you which individuals or entities within your consortium should complete the self-assessment, and ask you why should they be involved. And then once you have the results, the coach may give you some protocols to analyze the data. I myself find that these protocols are tools to help teams to take time to really look at the data before jumping in to solutions. And in supporting a collaborative culture, protocols ensure that everyone has a voice. Another example of what TTA coaching looks like is NOVA. The coach may not give you technical assistance in the mechanics of NOVA, but you can ask Holly. She's good at that. However, the coach may ask you questions about what challenges your consortium has with accurate recording and help you to prioritize and explore strategies to address those challenges. I think that's an overview of what coaching is, and that we will address both strategies and culture. Are we ready for Q&A? Good.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So I'll one of the Cape TAP staff can facilitate.
All right. Well, so we provided a brief overview of what TTA is, what it can offer, and we just thought we'd open it up and leave the rest of this time to ask you if you have any questions, how you think TTA can be supportive to your consortium. You're welcome in this space to come off of mute or put something in the chat so we can address any of those questions that you may have now. And then just really encourage you to review some of the links that we popped into the chat. It's the quality self-assessment just to give you a sense of the work that's ahead. And if it's something that you do want to commit to, just that kind of reiterating, please fill out the TTA application. That'll also help us inform us on who we can take into the TTA, if that can be done by the 15th of April. So does anyone have any questions or comments? Not seeing any.
Actually, I do. Please forgive me for having my camera off. We're actually on spring break, but I did want to participate in this on this afternoon. So my question as a new director for adult and continuing education, I'm with the Long Beach City College Consortia. I am seeing that positive attendance is done in many different ways, and I'm trying to make sure that there's a uniform way that we're doing it, and just really kind of looking at just positive attendance just overall, even within our combined classes. Just a little context, because at Long Beach City College, we have obviously our credit classes as well as our non-credit classes. So we can have multiple classes where our non-credit and our credit students are in the same class. And obviously those are our combined classes. Would coaching be able to address that particular area? Maybe even bring up best practices that they've seen in other areas to kind of guide us in how we can develop a uniform way that we can look at positive attendance at our college?
I can go ahead and answer that. I would say, well, I have another question, I guess. When you're thinking about Long Beach City College, would it just be working with the one school site, or would it be working with other members within your consortium?
Well, we actually have a very small consortium. It's just us and our adult school. However, it would be the combination. We do have most of the classes, but obviously our adult school would benefit as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we would like to, I would just kind of reiterate that we would like to see consortia working as a full team and not just as a singular school site. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. We do, I think kind of tracking this attendance is an ongoing challenge within CAEP, and I know that it's been something that the state leadership has been looking at with our vendors. But certainly there are best practices, and we have coaches that have worked very closely with the community college system that could address some of your concern areas and questions. So I would say, for as much as I know right now of your need, I do believe that we would be able to assist you.
Okay, great. And if I could have a follow-up question with that, I love the fact when you said earlier that I didn't even think about that as far as getting our data people involved. So when we schedule, when you were talking about the phases, and is it like mutual times that we can schedule? Because obviously between our consortia partner and then their data person and our data person, we want to make sure that everyone that we think should be around the table is around the table. Is there enough lead time for us to be able to just deal with schedules?
Yes, you are really the primary driver of the schedule, you as the consortium, right? And then our coaches will do their best to be flexible to meet your needs.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good questions. Any others?
We did have a question that came up in the chat. It was directed to me, so I'm just gonna let everybody know. It appears that potentially the application form is not letting everyone access it, so I'm gonna work on that on the back end. The second question that came up is, here, let me just read it. Being a small consortia. Oh, it just pushed up on me. Oh goodness, my chat's not working, or I'm not working with it apparently.
Annalise, sorry I sent that just to you. Do you want me to just say it?
Oh, sure. Is this Rebecca? Oh, so it
Yeah.
says, I think I replied to you, but I thought it'd be good for everyone to hear. So it says, we're a small consortium. How many people would you like to join from a consortium? What do you see in an ideal team size? So I can take the first stab at it, and then Carol, if you want, or if you want to just take it, I'm flexible. But what I replied to Rebecca is that the team can be comprised of, potentially it really is going to depend on what you're working on. Ideally, we want all of your consortia to be, have the buy-in or on board with the support that is going to be happening through TTA. And depending, we know that there are some consortia that will have as many as 22 members, some that maybe are as small as 2. So that will impact the size of your team. So that could be one person who has multiple hats. I think Carol kind of made mention of that. And it might be as large as, 5 to 10. It really will be dependent on you, and then of course what you're tackling. And Carol, if you want to add to that, or Sue.
Oh, you're on mute, Carol.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in this coaching process, what is so nice is it's a one-to-one with the coach and the consortium. So we're able to design the meetings based on whatever the needs are. So sometimes we might be attending your consortium meeting or not, or we're meeting with the executive director of the consortium, or we're meeting with all of the data team, people who need some work on their data integrity or something. And we design it based on what the needs are of the consortium, and it doesn't matter what size. We're very flexible. The whole idea is we are working at the consortium level, but we will also break off and work with individual agencies based on their needs so that the goal of the consortium can be met. I hope that answers, Rebecca.
Thank you.
And this is Rocio. I'm sorry, I jumped in a little late and my other meeting went later than expected, but I'm really interested in this. Thank you all for presenting this. We are also a small consortium, so I kind of had the similar question. We already broke up our meeting. So I'm a part-time director. That's I think a big issue. And I can only move the needle so far in that respect, because I do believe that having a full-time director really facilitates progress towards CAEP goals. But that aside, there's a lot of new members. We only have four members in our consortium, but I think this would be of great interest to them and bringing this to them. However, as you mentioned, Carol, I have a hard time bringing them. We have one meeting and then we have a follow-up meeting to our monthly meeting, just to break it up, because it's too much to do in one sitting, and that is overwhelming for them. So how to pitch this to them so that it is not one more meeting that they have to sit in is going to be pivotal for me. So once I fill out the application and I can open the link, I love to kind of brainstorm how I could potentially, what would be the best way of hooking them into this and having buy-in.
I can answer that. So this is very common with some of the small rural consortia that we have been working with. And Sue can also chime in because she's had experience with this. But sometimes at the very beginning, I will join your consortium meetings or whatever meeting you have and ask to be placed on the agenda near the end or at the beginning, wherever, so that we are not creating another meeting for your members to attend. We totally understand exactly that scenario that you just explained.
Great, thank you. So do we follow up afterwards? Great, thanks.
And
I'd like to add something there. I think, Rocio, you said something about a main meeting and then a subcommittee. It may be the the subcommittee that we're working with, but we try to work with you with what you need to work on. It may involve additional meetings, but I understand that it is a challenge for people with multiple responsibilities in getting together. So we try to work with you. And I think that's the beauty of coaching, is that it's just between the two of us.
And so I'm wondering, Sue, do you think, or Carol, can either one of you just give that initial, just like, walk us through what is an initial meeting look like when you first meet with your group as you begin that phase 1?
Go ahead, Sue. It's kind of like the checklist that Jacques gave us, which was really nice.
Yeah, so as you see, coaching is the tool of TTA, and you'll see in the roadmap, in the first thing in phase 1 is meeting with your coach. And there, we want to take the time to develop a coaching space, meaning a trusting space for you to be, for us to be honest with each other and to build a coaching schedule. 2 questions have already come up, who's involved and how do we set up meetings? So initially, it's getting to know you and developing a coaching relationship. Getting to know you, meaning every consortium is different. The dynamics are different. So, for example, I'm from Oakland, and it's an urban area. I worked with a consortium where members came from hundreds of miles away. So getting to know your consortium physically as well as your goals and aspirations. Carol, I see you nodding. Go ahead.
Yes, let me just add, and through this process, I truly believe that we become your advocate. We are your cheerleaders. We're encouraging you, and even after the relationship ends during the exit process, I am still, checking in or looking for people at conferences or whatever. I'm very aware still of what some of the other consortia that I work with are doing. It is that kind of a relationship that has been very positive for us. I also want you to know that as a coach, we all meet together and we discuss how we can be a better coach and be more effective in using better tools. So we have created our own community of practice so that we are also strengthening our skills as a coach. Sue is an excellent coach to me as I'm coaching other people. So there's a lot of collegial, it's just a really good feeling of wanting to do the best for our colleagues in California that are working with adult students.
I just have a clarifying question, if I may ask. So is this, and I'm sorry again, it's probably because I came in late. You probably covered this at the very beginning. So is this coaching done even if they don't have a director? Say some rural counties don't opt not to have a director. I know like about 20% of our consortiums don't have a director. Is this coaching available even if you do not have a director?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there are different models. Some have kind of a rotating director. Maybe they might be a principal or a director of the local adult school or college. And it rotates maybe on an annual basis or every other year basis. And we have worked with consortia that have different models than just a director as a lead. We've also worked with consortia who have had consultants as leads. So that's, and a lot of our smaller rural consortia will opt to do that, to work with a consultant. But we also hope that we're setting you up to be able to, to have the tools in your toolbox to be able to choose to work with or without a consultant as your consortium determines, the readiness of your consortium to do that.
And just to add, we started this during the pandemic, basically. So we have not been on site with many of our consortia that we've been assigned to. However, we've been able to connect at organizational meetings or conferences, state conferences, since the COVID restrictions have all been released, just to let you know. Because we do value the face-to-face, but most of the work right now is done via Zoom. Email, also text messaging, telephone calls. I mean, you basically can contact us whenever you want. We don't have like office hours or anything. It's when you need us, contact us.
All right. Any other questions or comments? I know I stopped sharing screen because I was hoping we could encourage more of a conversational setting, but I am actually going to go back to our slide deck and give you all an update that that link should now be working. I don't know what the glitch was. I really didn't do anything, but apparently it's working now. So if it's not, or you have a problem, just let us know. You can just shoot us an email. And
Mandalee, I think before the reflection, were you going to talk about next steps? Or did you want me to do reflection?
We can go into reflection in just a minute. I'm going to go back because really the next steps, if this is something that you would like to move forward with, it's back to this slide again. And back to that link I was just telling everyone about. The next step would be to let us know a little bit more about your consortium, maybe the areas where you feel TTA can be supportive. The QR code, I think, should be working. All signs point to yes, but I could be wrong. But the application is, I want to say it's like 5 or 6 questions. Just take a few moments. We're going to go through and review all of those. If you can complete that by the 15th, that'll allow us enough time to make sure that we review everything, and then we'll notify everyone who does submit an application who will be moving forward. We can, and maybe Renee, you can even speak to this a little further. We usually take on an additional 3 consortium per year. So for that next cycle of 18 months, we're looking for 3 additional consortium as we kind of, there's a little bit of that overlap, right? So just to give you a sense of what that might look like.
Right. Yeah. For the last, this is the 4th cohort, I think, that we're looking at. This, we have been starting a new cohort every spring. So every 12 months, we'll start a new 15 to 18 month cohort. And so there's always some overlap of the end of the final, the last cohort and the beginning of the new cohort. But again, you're working individually with your coaches. So you're not really doing anything, fully together as a cohort. Other than that, we're just kind of bringing you all on board at the same time.
So that's really the timeline and the next steps. So Sue, I'm going to move forward if that works for everybody.
One more question for you.
Sure.
So do you recommend that the application be filled out as a consortium or as the lead?
So if you're the lead and you know that your consortium is on board, I think it's okay to go ahead and fill that out. It's also okay to fill it out and maybe circle back with them. The idea is that, we are here to support the consortium, but we also understand that might mean, a heavier emphasis maybe on one side over the other. It just, again, it is each each relationship is unique because each consortium is unique in its structure as well as the areas that they're focusing on.
Mhm. And I just wanted to add, if you're here as a member of a consortium today and you're not the director lead, but you think this would be beneficial for your consortium, please bring it back to your consortium lead and, or even send us an email and just say, this sounds like a great thing. I'm going to be talking with my consortium lead, just so that we kind of have a heads up of, who's interested, right? Because certainly our members can express interest just as well as our directors and leads.
Thank you for that. Okay, so now I'm going to
Okay, one of my favorite parts and tools of coaching is reflection. It's for the people that we work with, reflecting is a way to solidify your learning. And as a coach, hearing your reflections helps us to know what is important to you and how we can improve our coaching. And so this reflection tool is called Square, Triangle, Circle. I don't know if we have time for everybody to name a square, triangle, or circle, but if you could choose one and share with us. So square, what is something that resonated with you in the last hour? Or a triangle, what are 3 points that you're taking away from this webinar? And a circle, what is a new question that is circling in your mind now? It would be, like I said, very helpful to us, and it helps to enhance your learning to reflect on this past hour. So Mandalay, do people respond in the chat or off mic, or how do you want to do this?
So we can do this where we can just kind of go round robin. I do see that Sean has his hand raised, so you go first, either with your question and then potentially your reflection.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Wonderful. My question is, we have in our consortium 4 larger schools and 4 smaller schools. And typically the 4 smaller schools need additional support, do not have a full-time principal dedicated just to the adult school. And there tends to be some turnover in the smaller schools more than the others. So I'm wondering, how would this work? I could see this being very beneficial, in particular to those 4 schools. And how would the coaching work? Would it be, for example, one coach meeting monthly with the members of the smaller schools as a group, or what would that look like?
Carol, you want to try taking that?
Well, okay,
Or
so
Sue?
first, and first of all, Sean, we were going to ask you all to complete your self-assessment, and based on that self-assessment, come up with what is the outcome that you want as a consortium, whether you're 4 large schools and 4 small schools, what is it? And then we would break out and work with the groups as needed based on how you would get to those goals. So it might mean meeting with one of the large schools and a couple of the small schools. It might mean working with just the small schools. We're not a support just for management and operations of adult education program. It's coaching to be more efficient and effective as a consortium. So we would ask you to do the self-assessment, and we would go from there and define how we would work with them. Sue, can you add to that?
No, I think you spoke to that well, that the self-assessment is our foundation, and it's a self-assessment of the entire consortium. And thus, one of the questions as you administer the self-assessment is who should completed so that all voices are heard. And that's from there, you get the content, and then which individuals or entities are involved in working with that priority. So as Carol said, it depends on the outcome and the priorities set. The outcomes that result from the self-assessment and your consortium's priorities. Does that answer your question, Sean?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think so. So, would it be, is it always individual, like one-to-one, or would you be also meeting in the group setting, or um, I think you may have touched on that. I'm sorry if
Yeah, typically it's going to be the coach with the consortium. So, and then the consortium makeup is going to differ depending on the needs of the consortium. So
Got it, got
it might be 1 on 2, it might be 1 on 8, it'll depend on that need.
totally makes sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. All right, so now that we've had a moment just to consider our reflection as we learned more. Are you a square, a triangle, or a circle? And I think what we'll do is we'll ask for volunteers. And if I don't see anyone come off mute or raise their hand, we'll go ahead and just start popcorning. So does anyone want to share first?
I saw Rebecca come on.
I did. I'm just excited about the idea of, so I'm square, I'm resonating with the idea of using really data-driven processes to come up with our 3-year plan. It'll be my first year coming up with a 3-year plan, and I'd really like it to be a meaningful 3-year plan.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is there anyone else that would like to volunteer?
Yeah, I'd like to volunteer next. I think for me, I know this is my second year, and I think, and coming up to the third year with the strategic plan, and I think it's really taking our consortium to the next level, and having resources, I think, is fantastic for us. I think that's what I'm excited about. So I'm not sure which one I am, but that's my contribution.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyone else feeling square, triangle, or circle, or maybe a combination?
I think for us, for the Long Beach City Consortium, I think it's also the strategic planning, as well as really looking at from both areas. Like I said, we have a small consortium who really needs to be at the table, really thinking about internal partners on both sides so that we can kind of strengthen the group. I don't want it just to be the directors at the table, but I think right now for me, it's thinking about who really needs to be at the table so that we can strengthen the consortium as a whole.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go to the first camera I see, and that is Kelly Henwood.
Knew I was going to be picked on. Hi. I well, I know the questions so I'm from San Diego, and again, everybody's consortia is different. And so we are the community college and the consortium with a small adult school. And I think one of the things that I've been really thinking about is obviously the 3-year plan, but also how we can do better at using data and being data informed. I have a lot of thoughts coming from the non-credit side of things around our, how this would all work in terms of getting a focus on what we need to do for CAEP. So I have ideas, I have questions I'm walking away with, but I'm trying to figure out like how would this actually work within the environment that we're in, so, but do we need it? Yeah, I think we do. So, but I don't know. I have a lot of questions, and maybe Mandalee and I can talk about it afterwards.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like it will help us and make our 3-year plan stronger, but it's how to get the people on board. I know our partners, we are a 2-member consortium, and I know our partners at Unified, although they're small, they're mighty, So I think that they would be up for it, but it's trying to figure out how it would work within our, within our kind of monstrosity of a system in the non-credit side. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. And I'll reach out to you. And I've been kind of private chatting with other people. I'll reach out to you as well and answer those questions. So thank you for sharing. Thank you to all of those that volunteered. And we have about 2 minutes left, maybe just under. So I think I just will let everyone else off the hook. But you can still consider what that, what you might be taking away from today's session. It's really that informational piece. And again, I'm just going to reiterate, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information is here. You can reach out to us individually, or you can reach out to TAP, and that's primarily monitored right now by Holly. I'm also in there as well, but one of us will get back to you with any questions that you might have. And then if you haven't already, there was the TTA roadmap that we popped in to the chat. So you can download that, just take an opportunity to review it. If you are a member and you are thinking this is something that you would like your consortium to participate in, you can forward that on to your director or lead or manager, or whatever that title might be, along with that application link as well. And again, just always, the extension is always there to always reach out to us anytime you need. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to the rest of the team and just say thank you all for joining us today. I'll pass it back to Renee. And then
Sure. Yeah, just thank you for being with us today. Just ditto. And I hope that this is something that you feel would be of value for your consortium.
Thank you. Carol or Sue, any closing words? No? All right. Well, we really appreciate you guys taking your time. Great questions, great reflections, and we will be in touch soon. So everyone, I hope you have a good rest of your afternoon. And Juliana, was that a bye or a question? Sorry.
I think it was a bye.
Oh, it was a bye. Okay. Sorry, we can't hear you. Okay, I think it was a bye. You have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.